Hello and welcome into another episode of Around the Leagues with Brady B. Thank you for tuning in and listening today on whatever platform you're listening on. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Around the League with Brady B. Also, make sure to follow the UIC Radio Instagram page so you don't miss any updates for my show and every other show that is on the network. A lot has gone down since we last talked. In this episode, we're going to be breaking down some of the things that we missed from last week, and trust me, it is a lot. We've had arrests made across sports. We've had NBA season start, NHL seasons, teams living up to expectations, teams underperforming. It's also UIC's Week of Horror, so I will be diving into that as well with the theme set around the best sporting events and sporting moments that have happened on Halloween night. Before getting into all the spookiness of the Halloween and all the games that have taken place on that amazing holiday, we first have to talk about what we missed since we last recorded. Last week, I briefly touched on it in my breakdown of the NBA season on how Malik Beasley, an NBA player, was getting investigated for his role in apparently fixing NBA games and shaving points. However, that was just hearsay and rumors that was started on social media, and people didn't really run with it. However, you know how social media works. People started looking at other players, and one of those players was Terry Rozier. And just so happens, Terry Rozier was arrested last week on charges for gambling and his alleged participation in this gambling ring. So going back to March of 2023, Terry Rozier texted one of his friends about his situation in the game. He apparently had foot discomfort, but according to federal prosecutors, Mr. Rozier's departure was a key moment for an inside trading scheme. Before the game, they say Mr. Rozier had informed his neighborhood friend, Denario Laster, that he would be exiting the game early so that Mr. Laster and others could bet hundreds of thousands of dollars on under of his performance. Players, I'm not going to say players should bet on themselves, but he's betting the under on him. So that's basically saying that he doesn't want to play good on purpose. Let's say he has to score 10 points. He could go up to 8 points and then just check himself out of the game with some injury, and that is exactly what he did. It wasn't just Mr. Rozier that was listed in these cases. There was 2 indictments sealed in federal court on Thursday that is going to have severe trickle-down effects on the NBA, in my opinion. NBA said they knew nothing about any of these things happening, but I find that very hard to believe. People in leagues know everything, and the fact that they didn't know that this was taking place, that there wasn't even an investigation going on, is very shady. And I saw Adam Silver, the Squidward lookalike himself, on ESPN talking about it, and it looked like he was scared. Usually he looks calm and collected every single time they showed him, but he actually looked nervously upset and agitated in this clip. It seems like something big is coming, and it's very interesting to see where this could go. The second indictment accused a Hall of Fame player, now NBA head coach, literally a head coach. He's on the bench for a team starting this season. After one game, he got arrested. It showed that head coach Chauncey Billups was enticing players into rigged poker games organized by organized crime families, in which victims were defrauded of at least $7 million. And when you look at this, the things that they had at these poker games were absolutely insane. So, I'm going to use this as a spin zone to say when I went to Vegas, I wasn't just losing when I was playing blackjack and poker. I was being robbed. Chauncey Billups and the other NBA players could have been there in that room somewhere laughing at me, pointing and laughing. Haha, there he is. We're going to scam all of his money. That could have been happening because this is what they were doing at these matchups, at these poker games in Miami, the Hamptons, Vegas, New York, all over. They were doing to these poor people that came in. They would be called the fish, and they would be hooked in by the face cards, which were the celebrities, in this case, Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, other NBA players, Damon Jones. So they would come in, and they would have extensive things set up to drive the price of the game up. There would be glasses that had see-through X-ray vision. Not a lie, that's actually what happened. This is the devices they had. Tables that read the cards, AirPods, I'm guessing, in the ears that relayed this message to other people that were off-site that would then relay the information to someone else in the room. So the person in the room had total access to let the other people know that were in on it, what was happening at that very moment. And the other people that were brought in without any knowledge, unfortunately, lost all this money. And what really catches people's attentions about all of this is the people that were also involved. There were crime families involved, mafia members, associates, and gamblers that were indicted. Colorful names here. It feels like if you're watching The Sopranos in real life. We have Charles Lucky Luciano, Vincent the Chin Gigante, Flappy Juice, and Big Bruce were also names of people that were listed on the defendant list. So it goes deep. It's not just a small little group of people doing this. It is a whole crime family. The whole things people used to talk about, the mafia, the big crime families back in the day, that's who was in on this. All of them are collaborating with each other. And I heard someone say, if all of them are involved together, it isn't just like some little scheme they're doing. This is something that is huge, that is going to keep taking place and may never stop. The NBA already has that black spot of gambling when Tim Donahue, a former referee, was rigging games. And it makes me scared. Has this even stopped taking place since then? Maybe they just opened it up. All these past years, FBI people didn't want to look at it. Now they finally did and found all this. What if they go back and look at these games and see Super Bowls, finals, World Series were rigged? All these times in the NFL where the Bears have been getting screwed with all these calls, maybe there's some truth behind it. Maybe it is rigged. Maybe it isn't entertainment. People say WWE is rigged. Obviously, we know that. What if other sports are using that entertainment factor with gambling to try to tie this in? Because when you think about it, look at everything that we have. We have gambling commercials everywhere you look. I'll be watching a commercial on YouTube, gambling commercial. I'll be on TV, gambling commercial. And you know what's strange about this? What if a player in the NFL is hurt? What if a player in the NBA is sitting out and they're watching the game at home and they see these gambling commercials? What if they're enticed to gamble a little bit and put some money on the line? It's not really a fair standard. It's like bringing someone a drink, leaving it there and telling them not to drink it. If it's readily available to them, why would they not take the chance and do that? And another sad thing about all this is Terry Rozier. It's not sad because obviously he's being a scumbag and costing people out of their money. But when players get accused of gambling and stuff like that, if it's not true, they just have people online coming at their play style and their ability. For instance, what if Terry Rozier wasn't actually gambling and he just wasn't good at basketball, so he wasn't hitting that quote point on purpose? That's a possibility that you could think about. Moving on to the theme of the week, UIC horror. We are going to be doing the best moments in games from NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA that have taken place on Halloween. We have some season and career-defining moments and other things that just simply happen to fall on Halloween. The NFL was gatekeeping the amount of games played on Halloween. I was looking everywhere to find the total amount of it, but they just weren't giving it. I had to do it individually, and from what I found, it's upwards of 45 games that were played on Halloween. Starting off with what I think is the number one game, just in terms of all the legends that were on the field, the stakes riding on the game. This one is going to be going back to 2004. We have a matchup between the New England Patriots taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. When you think about quarterbacks for the Patriots and the Steelers, you automatically think about Tom Brady or Big Ben, automatically, and that's exactly who was in this matchup. It wasn't just any matchup, however. It was the GOAT Tom Brady and rookie Big Ben. It wasn't who we know them of now. Tom Brady had won a Super Bowl at this point, yes, but his career was still unraveling, and we were still trying to see what he was going to be. So the Patriots were on a 21-game win streak that was going back all the way to Week 5 of the preseason and continuing to Week 8 of this season where they faced the Steelers. The Patriots jumped ahead early in the game, but the Steelers came right back with 24 unanswered points. At first, when I saw the first field goal get scored for the Patriots, I'm like, oh God, it's going to be one of these games. Tom Brady's going to absolutely dominate and cause havoc on this team, but I was completely wrong. Big Ben was looking sly, slim out there on the field. I couldn't even tell it was Big Ben if it wasn't for the number 7. He really let himself go after this game. I love Tom Brady. He's my favorite athlete of all time, but he looked terrible in this game. Back then, he could actually move. He was leaving the pocket and just launching the ball into triple coverage. And that's something I've never seen Tom Brady do, even at the end of his career when he was not holding out for a threat, because he never went out sad. But when he was on the Buccaneers and he was obviously visibly not able to move, that's what it was kind of looking like in this game. Getting out of the pocket, running, and just whipping it up. Some crazy things that happened in this game and significant streaks that were happening were obviously the 18 regular season games that the Patriots came in on. But this was the longest streak in NFL history at the time, and this was the Patriots' 7th road win. Patriots were on a 7-game road win streak at the time, which was also the most in franchise history. But as I said, the game was never close. The Steelers won the turnover battle 4-1, and listen to this. The Patriots had a -1 rush yards compared to the Steelers' 173. That's like when I'm playing NCAA football and I just can't get out of the mud. I'm just getting tackled for loss on Heisman mode every single time. This is what that must have been. Patriots must have had no running game at all, and you could see that in this game because negative losses were coming almost every play. My favorite thing to do when I go back and watch old school football games is seeing all the different players that were on the field. In this game, we had players like Ike Taylor, Ty Law, Plaxico Burress, Hines Ward, Troy Polamalu, Jerome Bettis. These are just absolute legends of the game. 2 of which, Ike Taylor and Jerome Bettis, both their sons go to Notre Dame, my favorite college football team, which is super cool. And then Plaxico Burress, I remember him from when I first started watching the NFL. He shot himself in the foot like Cheddar Bob from Eminem. That's how I know him. Ty Law, I just always thought that was a cool name for some reason, playing with him on Madden. Laying down the law was kind of how I looked at it. Joey Porter was an absolute menace in this game. He had 2 sacks, and they said going into the game he only had 1 before that. That's Joey Porter Jr.'s dad. If you know him from the NFL right now, Joey Porter Jr., the transitive property the Bears could have had him because we traded Chase Claypool to the Steelers for the 30th pick in the draft, which ended up being Joey Porter Jr. So technically he could be a Bear right now, and it would have been even better to have him in the Bear. Another amazing game that took place on Halloween was the Arizona Diamondbacks at the New York Yankees in Game 4 of the World Series. This was back when the Yankees weren't celebrating the divisional round series win like it was their first championship ever, like we saw this postseason. Hey, Yankees, get with the program. You guys are some prestigious franchise that doesn't allow their players to shave their beard or do anything like that. So why are you going to be celebrating winning a 3-game series? Wow, you guys did so much. Aaron Judge, you earned your pinstripes for one day when you hit that home run, and then everyone's going to forget about that now. Well, in this time, the Yankees were in the divisional round series against the Diamondbacks. The Yankees had, the studs of the Yankees, A-Rod, Derek Jeter, CC Sabathia, that were honestly bringing life to the city of New York. In this game, it was the epitome of Halloween night. It started on Halloween with kids in costumes in the crowd, And it ended with the kids sleeping in their parents' arms with their parents screaming at the Yankees to win the game. In the last inning, the Yankees found themselves trailing 3-1, but Tino Martinez smacked the home run for the Yankees with 2 outs to tie the game. When I was watching these highlights over, I didn't even realize it was 2 outs at first. I was just listening to the fans just going crazy still, even though their team was on the verge of losing the game. And then I look and I hear the pop of the bat, and Tino Martinez is running around the bases, and the crowd is going wild. People in scream masks are hugging each other. People in Smurfs face paint are running up and down the aisle. It's complete chaos in Yankee Stadium. After this, it was destiny of this game for a home run to be hit. But before the home run was hit to win the game, after Tito Martinez's home run, it was hit, midnight struck. And in the building, you hear chains chaining. You hear the chains of like a church going off. And that marked the first time that a MLB game ever went into November. There is so much going on to add to this. The only reason why it got to Halloween in the first place was because there was a lockout during the season that prevented teams from going to spring training at the designated time. So it was pushed back for that reason, as well as 9/11 happened, and the season was postponed for a week after those terrible attacks. So it was just destiny for this game to be played on Halloween and into November, with people in the costumes, the bells of the church ringing, bringing that scary element. Joe Buck was on the call, making people know that it was a special time in this sports moment. Getting back to the game itself, it was 3-3, and Derek Jeter came up to the plate. He hit a home run to right field, and that ball just kept flying and flying. 2 home runs in this game that were hit. It didn't look like either of them had a chance of going out. But sure enough, the ball kept flying, and it went out, and Derek Jeter was running around the bases, jumping up and down, and he was coined the nickname Mr. November after that. The first and maybe only MLB player to ever be given that nickname, given the sense that there haven't been many World Series games to even be played on Halloween in the first place. Another game that I decided to put in the best games of Halloween is the Astros at Dodgers. And it wasn't necessarily the best game, but the trickle-down effect from this game, this Halloween matchup, was very significant. Houston Astros versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. Luckily for the Dodgers, this game was not played on the road at Astros Stadium, so they didn't have to worry about the Astros cheating. That's why I chose this game, because this is where everything pretty much started for the Astros. If you're unfamiliar, here's the story. It's the MLB World Series. All of baseball fans have their eyes set on this matchup. 2 of the juggernauts of the MLB were on a crash course to meet up with each other in the Fall Classic, and they did. Halloween Game 6 matchup started with George Springer hitting a home run to take a 1-0 lead early. Shortly after, the Dodgers bounced back and won the game 3-1, forcing Game 7. This game doesn't really need a play-by-play. It was just everything that took place in the game itself. This series brought the biggest cheating scandal ever. The Astros had cameras set up in center field, which was locating the catcher's signals that he was giving to the pitcher. This camera and the person working the camera would alert it to someone who was in the clubhouse of the Astros. Depending on what the pitch was that was coming, the people working the camera would send the message to the people in the clubhouse, who would then bang a garbage can so the hitter knew exactly the pitch that was coming. Astros went on to win Game 7, 5-1. The score is besides the point. This team was cheating worse than I have ever seen. They had a clear competitive advantage and almost tarnished legacies. After this season, 3 seasons went by before the Dodgers were able to get their revenge. But, asterisk, it was a Mickey Mouse championship just like the Dodgers. Even though they won it, they was played with no fans in attendance. You don't have people heckling you. So, it's a asterisk. But nonetheless, the Dodgers were robbed of their championship window. After 2020, they won in 2024 finally, so they could kind of clear all the asterisk marks. But guess what? The players on the Astros were never punished. Coach was suspended, the GM was suspended, but the coach is already back coaching for the Detroit Tigers. They were fined $2 million. That's chump change for people in sports. It's not fair for Dodgers fans, the Dodgers players. People in the clubhouse were talking about how it affected them the whole offseason. Players were saying how it could have affected their legacies, affected the money they made because pitchers on the other team knew what were coming and screwing them out of the competitive edge that each player should have with one another. The last baseball game we're going to be talking about that took place on Halloween is going to be the Kansas City Royals World Series rally in 2015. Small market teams winning the World Series is always a great sight. It shows that you don't always need to spend the most amount of money to build a good team. You can win with small ball. During this run, it was one of the first times that I ever heard about the Royals. I knew every team, but who were these people from Kansas City? And I was especially confused because I found out that Kansas City wasn't even in Kansas, which is crazy to even begin with. Watching this game over, the first thing I noticed were all the legends in the game. I forgot Bartolo Colon, Curtis Granderson, Matt Harvey, Michael Conforno, Daniel Murphy, Lorenzo Cain, Yoenis Cespedes. Those are the definition of stars. Cespedes had a cannon on him. He would throw people out from left field to home with nothing. He would just do it flat-footed. He was an absolute monster. I'm sad his career ended so early. Lorenzo Cain as well. After his time with the Royals, he went on to the Brewers, he was still a very good player. I would always remember him jumping up the wall and robbing players from home runs. He was great. And guess who also made an appearance in this game? Ben Zobrist was in there doing what he does best and got the rally going for the team just like he did for the Cubbies. And then the Mets magic ran out. Daniel Murphy finally got the karma he deserved and made a huge error in the 8th, leading to runs being scored by the Royals. In the 8th inning, the Royals busted the game wide open. The Mets had chances to win it in the 9th with 2 runners on base, but Cespedes blew the game, couldn't get a hit, and that was the series. Right after I got done giving Cespedes credit, of course he had to go and make me look stupid. Why couldn't you have hit a 3-run home run here? If he did that, boom, everything would have been fine. The Royals would have been gone, and the Mets would have been World Series champions. But since then, the Mets have fans like Frank the Tank who hate them and want them to lose just so he could prove his point. One football game that we'll touch on for Halloween games will be the Dallas Cowboys versus the Philadelphia Eagles in 1993. This game obviously taking place on Halloween. This is a part of the podcast right here is for Troy Aikman, the biggest Caleb Williams hater ever. If you remember watching the Bears versus Commanders game last week, this man, Troy Aikman, the announcer, was going in at Caleb Williams for every single throw. Caleb would make one bad read. He would look at Caleb like he was a devil. Caleb threw a dot to Zacchaeus in the 4th quarter that literally hit Zacchaeus in the hands, and if he caught it, he would still be running. But Troy Aikman said, "Oh, it's a bad throw. You got to put it right on his arm there." Hey, Troy, buddy, I got some stats here that shows that you weren't such a great quarterback in your career. In this game between the Cowboys and the Eagles, the all-time rush leader, Emmitt Smith, had 237 yards and a touchdown in this 23-10 win over the Eagles. But that's not the storyline that we're going to talk about. Smith's yards from scrimmage accounted for 66.6% of the Dallas offense this day. Troy Aikman struggled in this game, going 9 of 19 for 96 yards. Great stats, Troy. You're really doing great stuff. The win increased Dallas's record to 5-1, and Smith won NFC Player of the Week. But that's besides the point. Well, it's not besides the point because that just proved my point. Troy Aikman, you're only good because of Emmitt Smith. Here, let's do something here. Let's look at Troy Aikman's numbers compared to Caleb's numbers. Let's dive into Troy Aikman's stats here. Throughout his career, he had 165 touchdowns and 141 interceptions. That's a ratio that is barely positive, and you're on a great team with great players, and you couldn't get a higher ratio than that. He only threw more than 20 touchdowns in one season once. He did in 1992. His offensive line consisted of Larry Allen, Eric Williams, and Mark Stefanski, probably the best offensive line of all time. And you can just say Aikman was basically driving a Ferrari in cruise control. People are saying that about Julian Sayin for Ohio State this year. They said it about the quarterback for Ohio State last year. You can say that about Troy Aikman. You had the best players around you. You didn't have to do anything. During the Cowboys through Super Bowl runs from 1992 to 1995, Aikman threw a total of 8 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. In the total of all those runs, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions is absolutely terrible. Some quarterbacks could do that in a 2-game span. Not even the interceptions. Quarterbacks could do that in a throw the touchdowns, not throw the interceptions, and still be fine. Also, in this same season, 1993, Emmitt Smith missed 2 games, and when he missed these 2 games, Dallas went 0-2, proving that the offense was dependent around Emmitt Smith and not on Aikman. Now I want to dive into the cool moments that have taken place on Halloween. One of them being Alex Rodriguez's World Series replay review in 2009. What I found interesting about this wasn't just replays, because who's interested in replays? It was the way that this replay took place. Alex Rodriguez hit a home run on August 28th, 2008 against the Tampa Bay Rays, and this home run was reviewed. This was the first time you would see a home run reviewed in an MLB game ever. And then later on that same year in October, Alex Rodriguez was batting, hit a ball to right field. It hit the top of the fence. People could not tell if it was either a double or a home run, so they had to go back and look at it. And sure enough, they made the changing of the field to a home run. So Alex Rodriguez was the guinea pig of home run trials 2 times in a row. What are the chances? They're like the chances of that are unbelievable. Regular season and postseason, 2 replay home runs. Luckily for him, both of them were confirmed. Imagine that, this new thing coming into sports and taking away 2 of your home runs, one of them being in the playoffs in the biggest series that you've ever played in. That would be hilarious just to think about. A-Rod sitting there in the dugout scowling. Why did they take that away from me? I don't know about these cameras. And now you see it everywhere. It's pretty much standard now that we have it. Without the cameras and replays, a lot of games would end up differently. If you look at now, we have come a long way. From only one umpire at this time to being able to determine to call the review and making the decision of what the review is. Now we have systems in place, AOS system, which is coming next year, which is going to do the following. If you throw a pitch and you're a pitcher or a catcher, you have the choice to tap on your head, and that's an indicator that you want to challenge the play. Once you do that, the umps have 10 seconds to make the call on the field. This is quick, fast, and efficient. Compared to this review that I watched, it took at least 5 to 10 minutes, and that's a lot of sports. It takes too long. In NBA, last season, the postseason, almost every time there is a stoppage, they would go back and look at the call. Refs have to go and look at the monitor, communicate with New York, hear what New York has to say, and relay that to everybody else involved. It's just a terrible process that slows down the game and makes people uninterested. In the NFL, they have it down. You have your red challenge flag that you can throw, and then the refs know you want that to be looked at. But in all these sports, you get one to begin with, and you get another one if you win it, which I think is totally fair, because you don't want every single thing to be reviewed, because then it's like, what's the point of even playing if everything you do it can be point out and corrected? That would just ruin the game, stop the game. Games would be way too long. So it's just crazy how A-Rod was both the first regular season replay and the first postseason regular replay, and it's just started this huge effect of instant replays everywhere. At this time, I'm guessing they had replays on TV so you could see the play again. But imagine they didn't, and you just came into your life and you had to sit through that. People would be so confused and not understand what was going on. Another moment that took place on Halloween was when Derrick Rose turned back the clock and had a 50-point game. It wasn't just a 50-point game. It was his response to it. After the game, Derrick Rose was literally in tears with all of his teammates around him, hugging him. It just showed how much it meant to Derrick Rose. There are stories of how he was never going to play basketball again. He even said himself that he wanted to take care of his knees so he was able to walk at his kids' graduations and other life events they had. And I'm guessing in this moment, all of that just got into his mind, just showed him how important that was to him, how important his family was to him. It was just a whirlwind of emotions. I couldn't believe what he was going through. And for him to have to do that interview, it just showed it was so real and so genuine. He loves the game of basketball. He loved the fans that he was talking to at the time. And everyone in that building was taking it in. People from the opposing team were just staring down at center court, looking at Derrick Rose being interviewed, looking at his teammates embracing him and showing him the love that he deserves. He turned back the clock that night, and it was an amazing moment that is gonna go down forever on Halloween. And people need to know that if your career isn't going the best, you can still always turn it around and make the most of it. Derrick Rose did exactly that, not only putting up this performance, but he was also a great teammate throughout all of his time post-injury. Another thing that happened on Halloween, which is just the most Halloween thing ever, was when a bat flew into the San Antonio Spurs arena and Manu Ginobili had to knock it down. Literally, I remember seeing this video and thinking it was AI, and I feel like if it was created now, most people would also think it was AI. I'm thinking about it. I wonder if someone did that as like a ploy or like a, not marketing, but some kind of strategic thing to bring attention to the game. But who would have brought a bat? If you bring a bat in your pocket and just letting it run free in the game, you got to be looked at. Because there's no metal detector that will stop that bat from being detected. So, hypothetically, this is how I think it went down. Someone was like, "Oh, Halloween night. What can we do to make this spice things up in the arena? Oh, I know. Let's bring a bat in and let it fly around." I'm guessing these people thought it was gonna be like a eagle and fly right back to them and land right on their shoulder after they were done letting it go crazy around the arena. But that wasn't the case. It went right to the center court and was flying around players' heads. It almost hit Tim Duncan's 7 foot, it almost hit 7-footer Tim Duncan. Greg Popovich was probably running for the hills, not wanting to get touched by it. It was probably scary. I wouldn't want a bat going running around. When I was younger, I thought bats would literally kill you if they came close to you. I thought they were dragons. I thought they were on the same realm of dragons, not real, until I saw them flying around at my football practices at night. But they never came close to me to slap it because I would not be able to do that. And that's what Manu Ginobili did. This man slapped the bat out of the air. And can we get like a 30 for 30 on how this happened? Where did the bat come from? What happened to the bat after? If Manu Ginobili still keeps in contact with the bat, there's so many questions to this bat controversy. Like, I wonder, Halloween is in through 4 days. I wonder if anyone's going to try to bring back that memory and have it fly around. Do it at a Spurs game. And you have the bat flying around, you just look around, you'll see Victor Wembanyama volleyball slapping it to the ground. And then you'll have like a new coach for the Spurs running over and protecting Wemby so nothing happens to him. Another cool moment that happened on Halloween was a matchup between the Saints and Steelers. So there was a pre-game costume contest, and before, no one really thought anything of it. They just thought, oh, it's a tailgate, Halloween, let's wear our costumes. But apparently someone leaked the information that all these fans were going to be in their costumes, and the Guinness World Records showed up. And there's a record for literally everything, and here's the one that this game broke. The Guinness World Record representative being in attendance for the game in a 2010 Saints victory. The previous record of 508 costume participant was absolutely smashed with 17,777 people being in costumes at this game. You know what? I'm actually disappointed in these numbers. 17,000 people. Let's see what the capacity of their stadium is. Cuz yeah, the capacity of the stadium is 40,000 people. So all those people that weren't dressed up, what were you doing? You could have been involved in history. How could you? Imagine you open up the Guinness Book of World Records and you see your description in there for most costume person at a sporting event. You would be on some god level status. I would take that with me everywhere I went. Anytime, I would just lift it up, throw my book of Guinness World Records on the table and be like, here I am, everyone. I'm in this book. I was one of 17,000 people that were in a costume. This literally gives me hope that it could be broken. Can I get a group of people together, bring them to the game, and all of us wear costumes? I literally have a record of Guinness that could be broken right here. That brings me to another good point. I wonder what are some other weird Guinness World Record things. Little snippet for next week's episode. We might be doing a ranking list of Guinness World Record sports moments because sports fans are weird and we need to dive more into them. Because look at, for instance, a sporting event. We need a breakdown of also all the costumes that were worn. How many people wore the same costumes? Who had the best costume? And that person who won the best costume should be awarded. Maybe they should be the face of the Guinness Book of World Records for this section of the book that talks about Halloween fans in stadiums. No, but in all seriousness, if two of the costumes were worn, two of the same costumes were worn, that number has to be dropped down. That's a skewed number, and that's going to make it less for me to do when I bring all my costume-wearing fans to the next Bears game they have. I wonder if they have the same thing for Christmas. Imagine just 200 Santas showing up to a game. Like, remember when the Eagles were playing on Halloween and when the Eagles were playing on Christmas and this Philly fans started throwing snowballs at the Santa Claus that was sitting there, just pelting them with snowballs? What if someone was doing that to the fans? What if there was one person that just hated costumes at this game, was just being a party pooper, or even left the game themselves because they couldn't deal with all these people having fun in costumes? It's a possibility, and the number could have dropped from 17,777 fans in costumes to 17,776 fans in costumes. There's just so many possibilities that could have happened at that game. Ending on a real sports moment. All the other ones have been real. You know, there's been some fun mixed in. Some moments have defined sports. But we're going to end with the GOAT, Wayne Gretzky, having a hat trick on Halloween back in 1989. And it wasn't just him who got the hat trick. A player on the other team also had a hat trick. 2 hat tricks in the same game. That's 6 goals from 2 players. That's insane. And then, you know, for hat tricks, they throw their hats on the ice. So there is an absurd amount of hats on the ice. I wonder if people, after the first hat trick, they went and bought a new hat and then they threw that one on. They must have. If you didn't do that, was it even a hat trick? That's crazy. Someone definitely went and bought a new hat after the first one. And they probably were in all jolly mood because it's like, oh, Halloween. I just bought a new hat. Maybe they wouldn't even bought a Halloween hat from from the store, the team store, and they lost it because of they had to throw their hat on the ice. That's just things you think about when people are doing hat tricks. Shouldn't be, oh, great goal by Wayne Gretzky. It should be, who's going home without their hat today. All right. This was my breakdown of all the best sporting events that take place on Halloween. We had moments from the NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, moments from players winning championships, moments to players getting hats thrown at them, players smacking bats out of the sky. Halloween saw it all, and I'm surprised there was that amount of games taking place, and I'm happy I was able to break some down. Because it is still early in the NBA and NHL season for games to really mean a lot, so it was hard to find games for that. But the Derrick Rose moment, I think, stood out. The Manu Ginobili moment definitely stood out, because that's still played every Halloween. You'll see the clip of Manu Ginobili slapping the bird out of the sky. And then you also have games that you might have not been familiar with, like the Royals and the Mets game or the Astros and the Dodgers game. But all those games meant a lot. It showed that small market teams could win the World Series, and it also showed that teams have gotten away with cheating, and who knows what other cheating has been going on throughout sports throughout the years. Thank you to everybody for tuning in to episode 3 of Around the Leagues with Brady B. Tune into my Instagram at Around the Leagues Pod, as well as the UIC Radio Instagram, to stay up to date and see what topics we'll be talking about, not just on the episode today, but throughout the week on my Instagram. So go over there and see breakdowns for games, news that have happened from now until the next episode. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. See you next week.